Do you leave important moments feeling like you just got away with something? Have you tried every confidence trick out there and still feel like a fraud? What would you actually do if you finally trusted yourself for real? Hey everybody, it's Dr. Grandma B again, Dr. Bachmeyer's avatar. Dr. Bachmeyer is busy researching and creating new videos and mastermind books for you as I speak. Let's go for it because you got this. A few weeks ago, I got a message from someone in our community, and I want to read it to you because I have a feeling a lot of you know exactly how this feels. They wrote, Dr. B, I've read all the books, I've done the affirmations, I've stood in front of the mirror every morning and told myself I'm confident, capable, and worthy, and I still feel like a fraud. What am I doing wrong? And I sat with that for a minute, and because this person is clearly trying, they're doing the work, they're showing up, and they still feel like they're faking it. Here's what I wrote back. Nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong is the strategy. And it's not your fault because this particular strategy, the affirmation game, the power pose, the fake it till you make it, has been sold to us so hard and for so long that most of us don't even question it anymore. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to look at what real confidence actually is. Not the performance of it, but the thing itself. Where it comes from, what the research says about building it, and what you can start doing differently today that will actually move the needle. Let me describe a scene you might recognize. You've got a meeting coming up, an important one. Maybe it's with your boss or a client or someone you need to impress. The night before, the anxiety kicks in. So you do what you've been taught. You stand a little taller. You tell yourself you can do this. You put on your most confident outfit. And it works, kind of. You get through it. People seem to respond well. You drive home feeling okay. And then you sit down, and the performance is over, and that quiet voice that was waiting in the corner the whole time walks back into the center of the room. That went okay, but they were just being nice. Next time, they'll see through it. The exhaustion isn't just physical, it's the exhaustion of maintaining a gap, the gap between how you presented yourself and how you actually feel inside. That gap is the problem, and here's why it gets worse over time. Every time you successfully perform confidence without actually feeling it, your nervous system gets a very specific message. The performance is what keeps you safe. The real you is not enough. You're not building confidence. You're building a dependency on the performance. This is the confidence loop that psychologists have studied extensively. It's driven in part by what researchers call contingent self-worth. Your sense of value rises when things go well and drops when they don't. The loop keeps spinning. The performance gets more exhausting. The inner critic gets louder. And the gap between how you look and how you feel gets wider. So let's talk about what's actually happening underneath this, because the research here is genuinely interesting. The psychologist who really cracked this open was Albert Bandura. In 1977, Bandura introduced the concept of self-efficacy, which is a term I want you to hold on to because it's not the same as self-esteem, and that distinction matters enormously. Self-efficacy is your belief in your own ability to execute specific tasks, to do a specific thing in a specific situation. Not, I am a confident person, but I believe I can handle this meeting, or I believe I can get through this conversation without falling apart. See the difference? It's targeted, it's earned, and it's not fixed. Bandura showed us exactly how it gets built. Bandura identified 4 sources of self-efficacy. The most powerful is mastery experiences, actually doing things and getting through them, even imperfectly, even awkwardly. Second is vicarious learning, watching someone similar to you navigate a challenge successfully and internalizing the message that someone like me can do this. Third is social persuasion, receiving credible, genuine encouragement from people whose opinion you trust. And fourth is physiological states, how your body feels when you're attempting something. Anxiety doesn't automatically mean you can't do it, but how you interpret that anxiety matters. Now let's talk about self-esteem because it's different, and the difference is important. Self-esteem is your overall sense of your own worth. It's more global, more general, and for decades it was treated as the holy grail. High self-esteem was the goal. Raise children's self-esteem. Therapists were told, protect it, nurture it, but the research got more complicated. Ulrich Orth and Richard Robbins, in a major 2022 review in The American Psychologist, found that while high self-esteem is genuinely associated with positive life outcomes, it becomes fragile when it's contingent. When your self-esteem is contingent on external validation, on succeeding, on being approved of, on performing well, it rises with every win and crashes with every loss. That's the confidence roller coaster most people are actually living on. Kristen Neff, a psychologist at the University of Texas at Austin, introduces the third piece of the puzzle. Her research on self-compassion shows something that initially surprises most people. Treating yourself with kindness when you fail doesn't make you soft, it makes you more capable. Her 2023 review in the Annual Review of Psychology, in which synthesized findings from over 4,000 studies, found that self-compassion is consistently associated with greater self-efficacy, greater resilience, and more intrinsic motivation. And critically, it doesn't require the external validation that makes self-esteem brittle. What we're looking at is a three-pillar model of authentic confidence: self-efficacy, built through action and experience; resilient self-esteem, not contingent on performance or approval; and self-compassion, the internal safety net that lets you try, fail, and come back without the inner critic dismantling everything you've built. These three pillars reinforce each other, and together they produce something performance-based confidence never can: a sense of capability that doesn't depend on everything going right. Let me give you some numbers because the research here is actually quite striking. Kolobinski and colleagues conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis in 2018, looking at CBT interventions based on the Fennell model of low self-esteem, and found medium to large effect sizes on measures of self-esteem and self-critical thinking, with benefits holding for at least 3 months after treatment ended. This wasn't a small pilot study, it was a comprehensive analysis of the existing evidence base. In 2022, a team led by Marcus Berg ran a pilot randomized controlled trial testing internet-based CBT for adolescents with low self-esteem. 7 weeks. Structured, stepwise practice. Significant improvements on the Rosenberg self-esteem scale. The takeaway? You don't need years of intensive therapy to move the needle. Structured practice works even in relatively brief formats. And in 2023, Peter Muris and Henry Otgar published a narrative review and meta-analysis looking at both self-esteem and self-compassion. They found that both predict psychological well-being, but self-compassion showed fewer downsides and more stability than self-esteem alone. Self-compassion, it turns out, is the more robust predictor. I want to tell you about Jordan. Jordan is 38, works in accounting, and by every external measure, doing fine. Good job. Reasonable apartment. Nobody at work would ever guess that every team meeting starts with a knot in their stomach and a quiet voice saying, "What if they figure out I don't actually belong here?" Jordan has read the books, tried the affirmations, stood in the bathroom mirror before important meetings and said, "I've got this," with varying degrees of conviction. It helped a little maybe, but it wore off because nothing on the inside actually changed. Jordan walked out of every meeting feeling like they'd gotten away with something, not like someone who genuinely belongs there. The turning point wasn't a breakthrough. That's the thing I most want you to hear. It was a tiny choice. Jordan started an evidence file, a notes app on the phone. Every day, one thing, no matter how small, that required showing up, trying, or getting through something hard. At first, it felt almost embarrassing. Answered a difficult email. Stayed in the hard conversation instead of shutting down. These barely feel like accomplishments. But Jordan kept going. Week after week, the list grew, and then something shifted. Jordan navigated a difficult client call and wrote it down. Jordan spoke up in a team meeting for the first time in months, and then Jordan made a mistake in a quarterly report. A real one, not catastrophic but noticeable. And instead of spiraling into, see, I knew it, I don't belong here, something different happened. Jordan used the self compassion pause. This is hard. I'm not the only person who makes mistakes. What do I actually need right now? The embarrassment didn't disappear. The self compassion pause doesn't erase hard feelings. What it does is shorten them. It breaks the spiral. It prevents the mistake from becoming evidence of permanent unworthiness. Here is the part most confidence content leaves out. I want to be honest with you about this because I think you can handle it and because you deserve the real version. Insight is not enough. Understanding the three-pillar model is not enough. Reading about Jordan's evidence file is not enough. The research is very clear on this. The confidence loop, the one where you perform, feel temporarily okay, go home to the inner critic and start again, that loop actually gets stronger without action. Avoidance is the mechanism. Every time you avoid a situation because you're not confident enough yet, you confirm to your nervous system that the situation is dangerous and that you are not equipped to handle it. What changes the loop is not a new mindset, it's a new behavior. And the new behavior doesn't have to be large, it just has to be real. One rung on the ladder, one entry in the evidence file, one moment where you catch the inner critic and actually examine the thought instead of just believing it. The brain learns from what you do, not from what you understand. This is Bandura's entire point. So let's get specific. 5 strategies, all evidence-based, all designed to work with how your brain actually changes, not how we wish it would. The first strategy, collect evidence, not affirmations. Here's why affirmations often backfire for people who are genuinely struggling with confidence. They contradict your existing self-beliefs. If your brain is currently running on, I'm not that capable, an affirmation that says, I am powerful and capable and magnificent, doesn't persuade it. It bounces off. What does work is behavioral evidence, real things you actually did. Start a confidence evidence file. It can be a notes app, a journal, a sticky note. Every day, one entry. One thing you did that required you to show up, try, or push through. Had the hard conversation. Said no when I needed to. Stayed in the uncomfortable situation instead of leaving. Small is fine, small is the point. Each entry is a data point that updates your internal story about what you're capable of. Your nervous system needs evidence, not encouragement. Strategy 2, use graduated exposure. Start small, stay moving. Avoidance strengthens fear. That's well-established CBT. The antidote is systematic, gradual approach, not exposure therapy in the clinical sense, but the same logic applied to daily life. Make a confidence ladder. Pick one area where your confidence is lowest. List 5 to 7 specific situations in that area, from the one that feels manageable all the way up to the one that feels impossible. Start at the bottom. Don't move up until the discomfort at that rung has noticeably decreased. You are not trying to feel confident before you climb. You're building the felt sense of capability by climbing. That is the entire mechanism. Strategy 3, restructure the inner critic. Not silence it, restructure it. CBT-based cognitive restructuring has been shown in multiple studies to significantly reduce the impact of self-critical thinking on confidence and psychological well-being. The Fennel model, reviewed by Kolubinsky and colleagues in 2018, targets exactly this, the negative core beliefs that fuel the inner critic. When the inner critic fires, you're going to embarrass yourself, they'll see through you, you don't belong here. Don't fight it and don't believe it. Instead, run it through 3 questions. What is the evidence for this thought? What is the evidence against it? And what would I tell my best friend if they came to me with this exact thought? Then write a more accurate, balanced alternative. Not a cheerful lie, an accurate statement. This is the work. Strategy 4, practice self-compassion in moments of failure. And I want to be specific about what self-compassion is and is not, because there is a persistent myth that it's an excuse-making strategy, that being kind to yourself when you mess up means you won't try as hard next time. The research says exactly the opposite. Neff's research and the broader body of self-compassion literature shows that self-compassionate people actually take more responsibility for their mistakes, not less. because they're not in shame defense mode. They can look at what happened honestly without it being an indictment of their entire worth. The 3-part self-compassion pause. Acknowledge what's happening. This is really hard. Recognize common humanity. I'm not the only person who goes through this. And ask what you need. That's it. It takes about 20 seconds. And it changes the trajectory of the spiral. Strategy 5. Deliberately expand your comfort zone using the 2 underutilized sources of self-efficacy: vicarious learning and social persuasion. Most people trying to build confidence focus entirely on direct experience, and direct experience is the most powerful source. But Bandura identified 4 sources for a reason. Vicarious learning: identify someone who has navigated a challenge similar to yours. Not someone for whom it came easily, but someone who struggled with something recognizable and got through it. Study their path, not to copy it, to internalize the evidence that someone like you can do this. Social persuasion: find one person in your life who genuinely believes in your capability, not someone who flatters you, but someone whose assessment you trust, and let their perspective land. Actually let it in. Don't deflect it. Don't minimize it. Allow accurate external data to update your internal model. Let me bring the research together for you because I want these names and findings to stay with you. Albert Bandura, 1977, Self-Efficacy Theory. The finding that has held up through decades of research: confidence is not a trait. It is a skill built through 4 specific sources, the most powerful of which is mastery experiences. If you take nothing else from this video, take that. Kolobinski and colleagues, 2018. Systematic review and meta-analysis. CBT-based interventions targeting low self-esteem produced medium to large effects. The inner critic can be restructured. The thought patterns that undermine confidence are not permanent. They respond to structured work. Berg and colleagues, 2022, randomized controlled trial. 7 weeks of structured, internet-based CBT produced significant improvement in self-esteem scores. You don't need years, you need structure, consistency, and graduated steps. Neff, 2023, synthesis of over 4,000 self-compassion studies. The conclusion: self-compassion is not a soft skill. It is a foundational mechanism. People who treat themselves with compassion during difficulty show higher self-efficacy, greater resilience, and better long-term outcomes than those who rely on self-criticism to motivate themselves. And Muris and Otgar, 2023, both self-esteem and self-compassion predict well-being, but self-compassion shows greater stability and fewer downsides. The combination, building efficacy through action, stabilizing self-esteem, and grounding the whole thing in self-compassion, is the architecture of durable confidence. Orth and Robbins, 2022, the Self-Esteem Review. High self-esteem is beneficial, but only when it's not contingent on performance or approval. The version of self-esteem that rises and falls with every external event is the version that leaves you exhausted. Remember Jordan? 3 months after starting the evidence file, Jordan's manager pulled them aside and asked where the new energy was coming from. Jordan didn't have a dramatic answer. No weekend seminar, no breakthrough therapy session, no morning routine, just a notes app with a growing list of things Jordan actually did, just a 3-part pause after a quarterly report mistake, just a quiet, accumulating record of showing up and meeting every stumble with a little less cruelty than the time before. That's what real confidence looks like from the inside. Not the feeling of being bulletproof, not the absence of self-doubt. It's the growing evidence base that says, I've been here before. I got through it. I'll get through this. And the internal environment that says, and if I don't get through it perfectly, that's okay too. Real confidence isn't something you perform. It's something you build. One piece of evidence at a time, one rung on the ladder, one self-compassion pause after one hard moment. The research is clear on this. The mechanism is real, and you already have what it takes to start. If something in this video landed for you, share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe if you want more of this. And as always, you've got this.